Director Frank Capra once called It's a Wonderful Life the favorite of all of his great films. And it's one of my favorites, too. Hello, I'm Tom Bosley. It seems like everyone who's laughed and cried through this classic movie feels just about the same way. In fact, for most of us, watching It's a Wonderful Life has become as much a part of Christmas as trimming the tree and exchanging presents. The film is full of delightful images of an America gone by. It's a timeless story that continues to win the hearts of each new generation that discovers it. Surprisingly, It's a Wonderful Life began as a Christmas card. In 1943, writer Philip Van Doren Stern wrote a short story which he called The Greatest Gift. He had 200 copies printed up as Christmas cards and mailed them to his family and friends. 3 months later, RKO Radio Studios bought The Greatest Gift for $10,000, intending to make it a Christmas movie with Cary Grant. But while various writers were struggling to adapt The Greatest Gift for the screen, Cary Grant found his Christmas story elsewhere, filming The Bishop's Wife in 1947. Meanwhile, 3 different scripts were written for The Greatest Gift. The scripts were all interesting tries, but none of them made the grade. So The Greatest Gift gathered dust on the shelf at RKO. Until director Frank Capra came along. Capra read The Greatest Gift and saw its potential immediately. RKO, anxious to unload the troublesome project, sold The Greatest Gift to Capra for the same $10,000 they'd paid for it, and threw in all 3 scripts for free. Frank Capra was one of the most successful directors of the 1930s, and had directed such classics as It Happened One Night, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and You Can't Take It With You. He was very popular with audiences, but critics often called his enjoyable, optimistic films Capricorn. Capra didn't mind, though. He felt that making positive statements through his movies was very important.
That's a great film. I love that film. It's my favorite film. And in a sense, it epitomizes everything I've been trying to do and trying to say in the other films, only does it very dramatically with a very unique story. The importance of the individual is the theme that it tells, and that no man is a failure, and every man has something to do with his life. If he's born to do something.
Things, and a couple of more that took those 2 things and started creating this story. And he hired Hackett and Goodrich, 2 of the finest writers that have ever been in motion pictures. It's wonderful. And in 2 weeks, they had they thought it was wonderful, these 2. And here, without it being an actual happening, without it being a play, a book, or anything, this from just these little lines, just little tiny thoughts. This is the way It's a Wonderful Life originated.
Capra populated Bedford Falls with the finest bunch of character actors in Hollywood. He had a kind of genius for casting. Just try to imagine It's a Wonderful Life with any other cast. It isn't easy, is it? The movie would have been very different if some of Capra's alternate choices had been hired. For instance, the role of George's Uncle Billy, played by Academy Award winner Thomas Mitchell. Capra considered actors like Barry Fitzgerald, Walter Brennan, Adolphe Menjou, and just think about this one, W.C. Fields. For the evil Mr. Potter, played to nasty perfection by Lionel Barrymore, he thought about Edgar Buchanan, Claude Rains, Charles Coburn, or that master of chills, Vincent Price. For Old Man Gower, the drunken druggist, Capra made an unorthodox choice. H.B. Warner, whose most famous role was that of Christ in Cecil B. DeMille's 1927 King of Kings. Now, aside from the role of George Bailey, the film's most important part was that of George's wife, Mary. Frank Capra's first choice for Mary was one of his personal favorites, Jean Arthur. Capra, Arthur, and Stewart had all worked together twice already in You Can't Take It With You and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. But Jean Arthur was already committed to a Broadway show, and so she turned Capra down. He then considered Olivia de Havilland and Anne Dvorak. Some people were even pushing for Ginger Rogers. But Capra finally decided on a fresh-faced MGM contract player, Donna Reed. Once again, Capra's instincts were accurate. Donna Reed was the ideal Mary Bailey, the perfect mixture of wholesome sex appeal and homegrown American strength and virtue. Here's an interesting bit of Wonderful Life trivia. Frank Capra. These days, movies can say or show just about anything imaginable. But in 1946, the production code of the Motion Picture Association of America was pretty stern about what audiences could see and hear, and they had a list of things for Capra to change. Certain phrases had to go, like nuts to you, and such words as impotent, dang, lousy, and jerk. Thus, the terrible J word was never uttered. However, in one case, Capra did manage to sidestep the production code. It stipulated that criminals had to be punished for their crimes. Well, the horrible Mr. Potter, who drives George to desperation by stealing the building and loans $8,000, never receives his comeuppance. Frank Capra claimed that he loved weather, especially movie weather. When he directed Lost Horizon in 1936, he actually had sets built inside a large ice house so that the actor's breath would show. Obviously, the Bedford Falls set was too large to refrigerate, so for the wintry scenes, something else had to be done. Movie snow at that time was usually made of cornflakes, painted white. The falling flakes looked like snow, but the loud crunch made it impossible to record dialogue. Capra wanted something better, quieter. The special effects crew came to the rescue. They covered...
After it's a different place, and nobody knows me and everything, right? But I stop for a minute and I say, God, I'm not a praying man, but please bring me back. Please bring me back. I want to live again.
I want to live again. Please, God, let me live again.
The film premiered at New York's Globe Theater on December 20th, 1946. It's hard to believe, but the film was not really the hit that Capra and RKO thought it would be. It's a Wonderful Life was nominated for several Academy Awards, but didn't win any. Within a few months, It's a Wonderful Life was old news. Capra, Stewart, and everyone else involved moved on to other projects, and the film would retire into obscurity, waiting to be rediscovered by future generations. It's a Wonderful Life would eventually be saved by those who recognized its true worth.
To my big brother...
George, Harry, you're shaking the house down. Stop it.
For Paramount Pictures Archive. It's a corporate archive. Our job is to make sure that everybody who needs access to our elements to distribute them can, first and foremost. But we do have another responsibility. We do have cinema legacy on our shoulders that absolutely does keep us up at night, and worried about the state of our films. And we wouldn't be doing that if we didn't take that seriously, because we do. It's a Wonderful Life. My God. Well, I mean, come on, it's an incredible film, and it's a privilege and an honor to take care of it, but it's also a huge burden, and we want to make sure we do it well.
It's a Wonderful Life is one of how this movie should look.
The nitrate original negative of this film, sadly, has begun to deteriorate, and nitrate deterioration really means eventually the image will be gone. So it was an urgent issue to make sure that we were capturing the best possible image digitally from that original negative. If we go into other elements, which we had to use in this film, and we often have to use in this film, we'll never have that same resolution and information that you have in the original negative.
Today we'll be viewing a roll of film for It's a Wonderful Life. We're using a Scanity. It's one of the safest machines we have in-house due to it not having any metal parts, metal sprockets, or any pins registering the film. So it's a hub, and it's completely safe for these older films, for these films with problematic perfs. It's really, really good.
Scanning is actually a relatively straightforward process. With the modern scanners of today, they are not pin registered, so you're not really dragging the film through. There's not a physical intervention against the film. So it's handled very gently on these rollers that just sort of glide everything through while the image is being captured.
When nitrate deterioration happens, of course, film has sprockets. If the film shrinks, so do the sprockets. So that's why you want to treat the film so gently. Getting away from pins is a huge moment for archival film. Yeah. We knew that just capturing it meant we weren't going to destroy it while we were at it.
And there's actually, on the scanner that we use for this, the Scanity, there is a second camera that captures the perforations as it goes through the scanner and then uses that information to kind of optically stabilize the scan image. So that stabilization, which in the past would have been accomplished by using pins to register things, that is now handled digitally. We were lucky in the case of It's a Wonderful Life that 13 of the 14 reels of original negative have survived. Now, portions of those surviving reels were starting to deteriorate at the ends. So we were missing image in parts at the ends of certain reels. And again, we were lucky, I guess, to say we had 2 second-generation elements that were made right after the time the negative was made. So they were both nitrate. They were fine grains made in the 40s. So we had 2 of those to choose from as alternates where either footage was missing or footage was badly damaged. So we actually scanned all of it, all the negative that survived and both fine grains. So we went through and on a shot-by-shot basis picked, okay, this one's better for this shot, this one's better for that shot.
Even where there was some deterioration in the original negative, the digital restoration tools are mature enough to actually fix that. In the past, we would have had to make much harder choices. We would have said, all right, we're going to lose the resolution, but man, the tear or the deterioration in this frame, we can't fix it. Now, that's the other advantage of being in this time and doing this work on this film is we can actually fix things we were never able to fix before and keep that resolution. That's why we really appreciate a negative like this, too, because we know all our negatives are this perfectly made, right? You know, there'll be movies where it was low light, it was stocks from a certain era, and it's just green-tastic when we get it up there. And although that is filmic, combined with the way things are scanned, it becomes more noise than film grain. And we're constantly fighting that battle to not take too much grain away, but not blind the audience with little dots. The advances in high dynamic range have really enabled films to be seen in a different way. And it's very exciting to actually look at something like It's a Wonderful Life that you and I and everyone has seen hopefully hundreds of times in this absolutely amazing view. It just gives such a...
4K, the difference between, you know, the first generation negative and second generation fine grain was very apparent. So, you know, to Mike's point, he had to do a lot of work to kind of balance things out. So, you know, he had to work with the contrast, he had to work with the density, we had to work with the grain as well. But so this is a particularly great example of where he hid a transition from negative to fine grain. And he actually hid it when somebody walks in front of the screen.
2 different elements.
2 different elements.
That were really looked quite different
in the raw scan.
Harry's a genius at research.
I transitioned from one.
There was a transition. Did you see it?
Harry's a genius at research. My father just fell in love with him.
You did too.
If you watch carefully, you can sort of see the grain in her face.
The grain
slightly
increases
change,
slightly.
But
going forward.
So doing those kinds of transitions, but also if Mike hadn't done such a good job of balancing out the A and B sides of it, that transition still would have been more obvious than it is. We're really sensitive when we restore a movie to make it feel film-like. And for me, that involves a lot of sort of backing off of contrast in certain cases. And again, this is where technology and better color spaces help us out because If you back off on contrast, sometimes things can look soft. So, you know, with better resolution and better color spaces, you're able to get that detail without having to lay on contrast too much, which makes things look more video-like and less film-like. So our restorations are able to sort of keep a really nice filmic quality to them. And really being able to dig into